Good morning, everybody. This is Mikhail speaking. I am the co-founder and president of DigitalGenius. Today, together with my colleague, Jay Parisi, who heads up our sales engineering practice, we'll be talking about our company as well as a technology which we call Conversational Process Automation, specifically as it focuses on the contact center and customer service operations. So thank you all for joining us today. This is going to be a pretty quick webinar, about 30 minutes. I'll be going through some slides to give you the context, and then Jay Parisi will take over and show product in action with a live demo, and we'll leave some time and room for questions. This webinar is going to be video recorded, and we'll be sending out the link in case you want to share it with your colleagues later. So once again, thank you all for joining, and let's get going. The first thing that is changing in the world is companies are starting to view customer service not just as a cost center, as they have in the past, but as a competitive advantage. And every day we come across companies that fall into one of these two buckets, and more we see companies shifting to the first one, which is that customer service is becoming a competitive advantage for their business. And there are many reasons for that. One thing that's happening that's driving that is that customers are not going to wait for a contact center to catch up with their expectations. Their expectations are grown tremendously. They want to be reaching out to you on multiple channels. They would like to speak to you in many languages, and in many cases, they need responses right away. And in this little graph here, you can see that each inflection point is marked by an introduction of a new conversation channel for customer support. So for instance, a company might introduce Twitter or Facebook Messenger or WhatsApp as a new channel for customer service, and they will see an almost immediate spike in customer service volume. And so that leads to an important question, which is how does a team actually support this increased volume of new messages and new conversations coming in? Well, you can always double your headcount of FTEs and invest in hiring more people. But for many companies today, that is no longer possible, just for budget reasons. So the thing that's happening is companies are increasingly looking at technology, specifically applications of machine learning and AI, to reinforce their existing customer service team and make them more efficient and productive in serving customers. And so in the past, it used to be that you could do one of two things. You can either remove costs from your contact center, in which case usually the customer experience would suffer, or you can invest in improving the customer service experience, which would mean that the costs of your contact center are also going up. Now, we believe that machine learning and AI are the equalizer. They will enable companies to achieve both a reduction of cost, unnecessary cost in their contact center, as well as improving the customer service experience. So it's kind of like having the best of both worlds without making these sacrifices. And I'm going to dive into a little bit of what we do to help companies achieve this. DigitalGenius is an AI platform for customer service, and we have two propositions that we bring to our customers. One is called Autopilot, which focuses on automated answers and case resolution of customer service queries. The other one is called Copilot, and that is our agent assist functionality where AI helps agents. Let's dive into each one of these briefly to see what they're all about. Autopilot uses machine learning to understand incoming conversations from customers and then slides that understanding into a series of back-end processes that actually resolve customer service cases end to end. And to give you an idea of what can be achieved with Autopilot, we'll give you some examples of data that's come back from our existing customers. This has been anonymized, but what we're seeing across our customer base is with Autopilot, companies are automating end-to-end anywhere from 15 to 40% of their overall case volume. Now, what that means is we're not just talking about deflection here. We're not saying we're deflecting a knowledge article and the case is solved. We're talking about end-to-end resolution of cases that often require back-end systems. For example, a case like a refund, an email will come in asking for a refund. Our AI engine will understand the conversation. It will then ping the back-end system to check whether the customer is eligible for a refund. And if they are, the system will automatically reply with an email or a message that will confirm that the refund has been processed. And the process of the refund will also be executed on the back end. So we're talking about a combination of conversations and processes to drive end-to-end resolutions. And companies we're working with today are seeing some fantastic results. Now, one of the most common questions we get is, well, if you're putting so much of the message volume on autopilot, what is the impact to customer satisfaction and CSAT? And the interesting thing is that CSAT scores are going up with DigitalGenius Autopilot. Here are some anonymized CSAT comments that our customers receive from their end users once they've had an autopilot interaction. And a lot of these, conversations are happening through tools like Zendesk and Salesforce Service Cloud. So the customer ends up writing back and saying that they either were satisfied or dissatisfied with the resolution of their case. In this particular example, again, it has to do with refunds and cancellations. Customers are writing back and saying that this is the fastest response they've ever seen in customer service. This customer service made the process easy and may in fact be the reason why this customer comes back next year after canceling the subscription this time around, because it wasn't a good fit for them this time around. So what we're seeing is more and more customers being satisfied with this rapid execution of a resolution that they never would have expected. Normally, this type of query could take hours, if not days in some cases. With DigitalGenius Autopilot, we're auto-resolving those tickets almost immediately. Now, the second part of our product is called Copilot. What this does is it uses the AI models to understand conversations from customers, but then it assists agents by recommending them AI answers and suggestions so that they can choose to approve them or personalize them in real time. This removes the agent's dependence on searching through back-end systems for knowledge, looking and copy-pasting answers, typing repetitive answers all day. So this system actually recommends answers to agents, and then the agents go ahead and approve it themselves or personalize it, and the AI learns from that process. So the objective here is to reduce the handling time of the case, as well as ensure more efficient and productive agents, as well as happy agents. And here are some of the results we're seeing across our customer base with the Copilot proposition. First of all, probably most important is a near to 50% reduction in average handling time, which means that if a ticket or a customer service case used to take you 7 minutes, with Copilot, it'll take you 50% less than that. So you'll be solving your cases twice as fast. The second interesting statistic is we have companies that have actually been able to double the amount of customer service message volume they are solving for with the same FTE headcount. And that's making some huge productivity gains for the company, as well as preserving their budget. And finally, we're seeing a 75% increase in agent retention, which is an interesting stat because it talks about the fact that the agents are actually finding the AI tool useful, and it's helping them do their job better, faster, and be more satisfied. And therefore, the churn rate of agents is dropping and agents are staying longer because the company has provided them with the right tools to do their job in today's modern environment. Here's an example of one of our customers. This is KLM, Royal Dutch Airlines, who recently spoke at the AI Summit in London and shared some of the results they've been able to achieve with DigitalGenius Copilot. On the graph, their customer service leader is sharing the reduction in processing time for cases related to specific categories. So on the screen, if you take a look closely, you'll see that there's a set of bars that represent all questions related to bookings, another one related to baggage claims, another one related to their frequent flyer program. And in the dark blue color, you'll see the amount of processing time it takes to solve those cases without AI. And in the lighter blue, white bars are the ones that represent the amount of time it takes them to solve those exact same cases with DigitalGenius Copilot. And so these types of results is something we're very proud of and something we hope to bring to more customers around the world. Here's some other exciting examples from other companies that have implemented this type of technology. Travelbird is reducing their average handling time by 30%. And interestingly enough, they've been able to use some of that time that was unlocked through AI to teach their agents how to upsell and cross-sell, and have now made their contact center profitable. And that's a very rare thing to have a profitable contact center because most companies look at it as a cost center. But it is possible today with technologies like machine learning to actually unlock enough time from your agents to look for ways to bring additional value to the company in the form of upsell and cross-sell revenue. Another example, as I mentioned before, is KLM, who is now handling twice the volume of messages with a similar agent headcount and having reduced their processing time by about 50%. This also works for smaller companies, so it's not just large enterprises like KLM that are using this. Companies like Magoosh that have a bit of a smaller team, they're auto-resolving 10% of their total case volume after just 1 week of implementing DigitalGenius Autopilot. And with Copilot, they've cut their queue time or the waiting time in half. And finally, Course Hero is now auto-resolving 15% of their overall customer service volume without any agent involvement using the Autopilot functionality. So this means if a question comes in from a customer, let's say it has to do with a refund request, that used to be a very repetitive case that a human agent had to solve using both their agent console, like a Zendesk, for example, as well as a back-end system that manages their accounts and refunds. And with Autopilot, combining those two and introducing a layer of predictive AI, they're now auto-resolving 15% of their overall case volume. And you could think about it in terms of what is the cost per ticket and how many tickets are auto-resolved with Autopilot. So in general, the idea here is that every company in the world will have AI in their contact center in the next few years. Every company in the world will have some form of machine learning being used in their contact center in the next few years. And the question is, in today's noisy, hyped up AI environment, how do you actually put the machine to work? So I'm going to be wrapping up and passing off to Jay in just a minute. But first, I want to explain a process which we're calling Conversational Process Automation. The interesting thing that we've found over the last 4 years of being in business is that customer service, surprisingly, is not just about conversations. Sounds kind of obvious, right? But it turns out that when we first started our business, we were so focused on conversations only and building the best AI that can have autonomous conversations, we didn't come up against enough use cases where we had started coming up against more and more use cases where conversations were simply not enough. And the reality is that in any customer service journey, a conversation can be only about 30 or 40% of the whole user journey. In fact, most of the time and most of the cost that contact centers are paying today is not for the conversation piece, but it's those back-end processes that a human agent has to execute manually time and time again in order to actually resolve a customer's query. So we introduced a process called Conversational Process Automation, which uses AI to understand conversations and connects them with this back-end world of business processes that actually resolve customer service queries. And in practice, this could look like a customer sending you a message, for example, asking for a refund. Our AI model will understand what this customer is actually looking to do based on the conversation, and then slide it into this series of back-end processes that must be executed in order to solve that customer's problem. And this involves APIs into back-end systems and et cetera. But at the end of the day, the customer gets the refund they're looking for, as well as a confirmation that, or in the form of a message, just like they expected it, that they've now been refunded. And most times this makes them very happy because this is faster than they've ever experienced this type of customer service journey before. So with Conversational Process Automation, we are connecting this world of customer service dialogue with this world of contact center and customer service backend processes to make your contact center more efficient. And to put it more practical, the way you might want to think about this is look at your business, look at your customer service operation, and think about which parts of it does it make sense to actually put on autopilot. And the way we advise our customers is to look at in terms of very granular case types or ticket types. So in this graph, I'm just showing a couple of examples of how a company might look into this, and they would say, okay, well, I have 12,000 monthly tickets related to refunds. My cost per ticket for that type of case is $9. It involves an internal system because a human agent can never actually process this refund without using a back-end internal system. And yes, there is an API available for the back-end system. Same goes for things like account management issues or order status checks, where a company might need to access another system like a CRM or Shopify. And in this case, you can look at the monthly volume you have of that type of ticket, at your cost per ticket, whether it involves a third-party system or not, and if an API is available. Now, we've gone ahead and we've actually pre-built connectors with a lot of the most popular third-party systems, like Shopify, for example. So if your company happens to already be using one that's very common, you can have this Autopilot off the shelf. If there's an internal backend system that is proprietary to your business, we would work together through our API connection process and basically set it up so that our system can interact with your backend to resolve these cases. And the goal of this whole thing is to focus on what's important to a customer service team. It's not about AI. It's not about machine learning. It's about solving specific challenges inside of a customer service operation. And machine learning happens to be a very good way of doing that. But it still has to come back to your goals. So, for example, if you're a VP or a director or a customer service manager or even an agent, you might have some specific goals. For example, I want to deflect questions. I want to automatically answer questions. I would like to reduce my average handling time. I would like to auto-resolve cases. And so for each of these, goals, there's a variety of choices that you can make. For example, you might opt to invest in a point solution, something that only addresses that part of it. So if you wanted to only deflect questions, there's a whole market of self-service tools out there that can help you, deflect questions through an FAQ article and so on. If you wanted to look at just automatically answering questions, you could look at some of the scripted chatbots or some of the NLP chatbots that might help you solve that. And there may be some just standalone agent assist products out there that do this. The challenge with all those is that they're all separate companies and separate systems, but yet you have one contact center or one customer service operation. And it may not be enough to just do one of these things well. You might want to be thinking about actually, having a process that covers the gamut of these goals. And so when it comes to things like increasing your CSAT or automatically resolving cases, some of the point solutions might not be enough. And so that's why we introduced the DigitalGenius as a platform, as opposed to a point solution that can speak to and address every single one of these objectives that you might have inside of your customer service team or your customer service operation. Now, to give you a glance, sort of an overall high-level bird's eye view of what the DigitalGenius platform looks like, I'll give you a visual. You have your customers that are reaching out to your business through various channels. It could be through emails, it could be through Facebook, it could be through chat. And when they reach out to you, they're most of the time have a specific objective in mind. They're not just talking to you because they have no one else to talk to. They actually want a refund, or they want to change their booking, or they want to upgrade their subscription. And so all of these conversations are funneled through your customer service console. It could be Salesforce Service Cloud, one of our partners. It could be Zendesk, another one of our great partners, and many others out there. And so all of these conversations are having to funnel through those systems. Now, when they go through our system, they're also connected to DigitalGenius. And the first thing that happens is that those messages, they hit our AI engine, which uses deep neural networks to understand those conversations. And once those conversations have been understood through our engine, we have a choice. We either invoke Autopilot, which gives you the automated resolution of cases end to end, or if the confidence level of the Autopilot proposal is not high enough to actually fire off an automation, because remember, we're not automating everything. We're only automating things that exceed a certain confidence level. If it's not high enough, we have the Copilot, which actually assists your agents in answering those cases faster. And to bring this whole thing together, we have the DigitalGenius Control Center, which pretty much takes the AI out of the black box and enables any business user to manage their own AI models, to control their own automations, and see the real-time analytics of what the system's performance is. And that's also where we connect to the back-end systems like Shopify and your internal systems. So that wraps up my portion. Thank you for sticking with me to see the full picture of what we do. I would like to pass it off to Jay Parisi now to talk about the demo and to actually show it. So Jay, please go ahead.
Awesome, Mikhail. Thank you so much. All right, cool. So we have our demo context here. So we have this fictitious Genius Team company. We have a corporate mandate to compete and offer a guaranteed 2-day delivery. And the result of that has driven many order status inquiries via our conversational channels, as Mikhail mentioned. We happen to use Shopify as our e-commerce platform and Zendesk for customer support. And it turns out, this month we've been having unexpected fulfillment and logistic issues. So one of the ways we want to augment and help our agents is by offering a automation process to whenever a customer asks about order status. So let me switch over to my to my desktop, and I'll show you the product. One second. All right, awesome. So you guys should see my inbox. I'm running Gmail, and I'm gonna play the role of 3 different user scenarios. The first scenario is hey, my order never came. I think I placed an order, it never came, right? So I'm just gonna go ahead and fire that off to our Zendesk support site. And then I have a second use case where I wanna know if my order will be on time. So I've created this order, I have my order ID, I'm putting it into an email body, and I wanna know if I'm gonna get my order on time. And you see here, I have this order ID number presented. What we're gonna do is extract that from the body of the email and then use that to query Shopify. And what that will hit essentially is this order's backend where that order lives. So let me go ahead and fire that off. And then the last scenario is, my order's not on time. You guys have this promotion for guaranteed 2-day delivery. You have not met it. Where's my order? So let me go ahead and fire off that email. So while that propagates in the back end and our autopilot kicks in, let me tell you about what the journey is actually doing. So what will happen is when the ticket comes into Zendesk, we'll then freeze the ticket and fire off a trigger to our autopilot server. And we'll check if this ticket has been automated, right, just to make sure we're not having any duplicates or redundancies. We'll then do a prediction. So the bridge between the AI to the flow server is predicting what the customer is asking about and then executing the process that should happen, right? So we'll check to see if this is an order intent inquiry. And if it is, we'll then look in the body of the email and extract that order ID. Now, if the order ID is not present, what we'll do is we'll immediately respond back and say, hey, we're sorry, we looked for an order ID, we looked you up as a customer, no order existed. Can you please send us back the order ID? If their order ID is present in this workflow, in this process automation, we'll then go ahead and check if the email matches the order ID, just so someone can't query an order ID by someone else's email address. So we'll validate that the order ID presented matches the email that came inbound. If the order doesn't exist, if the order is true, we'll go ahead and check the order status for you. Now, if the order status is within 2 days, we'll send you back an automation that says, here you go, your order status is on time, and you can check here. If it's not on time, we want to apologize to our customer and say, our bad, here's a discount code. So this last response in this journey, in this workflow, will be to apologize to the customer if it's greater than 2 days. So a couple things to call out. You'll notice that each of these blocks are chained together, right, in a sort of a conditional workflow. Each of these blocks are what we call actions, and actions are snippets of logic and integration to perform a function, right? As I mentioned, checking an email address, checking if the order ID exists. Each action, right, is listed in an action library, as you see here. And each action has its own action landing page where you can actually learn about the action. So say I want to reuse this later on for another automation. I can grab this from the marketplace and I can learn here about what it does. I can actually test this action by putting in an order ID and calling out to the Shopify API and see if it works. And you can see here, I get my order ID back, the customer name, et cetera, et cetera. This is the integration logic that will happen in that workflow. And I can also see logs, right? So if my actions aren't behaving correctly, maybe the API is down, maybe there's some funky behavior in the execution, right? We have a full stack trace, right? And the ability to look at these logs and monitor what's going on. All right, so now that we understand our workflow, to automate order status inquiries, and we understand chaining together actions, which are snippets of integration and business logic, let's go ahead and switch over to Zendesk, and let's see what came in. So here you'll see we have three emails. So the first one I sent off was, hey, my order never came, right? So in that scenario, we looked up the user's email address. We weren't able to find any orders, right? So we sent an email back in real time and said, please provide your order ID. You'll also notice that in the conversation events, you can see here that the ticket itself was pushed, and to our automation side to perform that logic. Let's go back to our tickets, and we'll look at the second scenario, which is, hey, will my order be on time? And what we did was we validated the date it was created, and it was ordered, and if we're within 2 days, we send an order status response back saying, we're happy to report your order is on time, and you can check your order status here. We can do some cool stuff with this workflow if we wanted to. We can pull in the actual tracking number. We can put information in the ticket field if that would be relevant and helpful to your agents so they can do their jobs faster. So if you're using Zendesk and you don't have all your shipping data inside the Zendesk object store, you can pull that information as well into the ticket fields as a custom field. And then lastly, our third use case was, hey, my order was not within the scope of what you told me it would be. And we immediately send back a email to the customer saying, we apologize, check your order status here. Here's a discount code, right, that we pulled from the Shopify API to give them 20% off their order, right? So now the customer, although they may not be happy, they might want a refund on an expedited shipping they paid, we're giving them a discount code to supplement the bad experience. And ultimately a fast response to their inquiry in a poor situation. So if we go back to the dashboard, you'll see I do have this overview of the order status automation, but I can also put in the ticket ID of the customer, and we can actually see the execution, right? So here you'll see that everything that came in, right, is logged here. And we're finding out if it was true or false, if it executed correctly or incorrectly. And you can see here, this is all the information or the steps in this journey that led to an apology to the customer. All right, so Mikhail, I'll stop with a few minutes left, and hopefully we can take some good questions. Thank you, guys.
Perfect. Thank you, Jay, for that overview of our product. So I have a couple of things to wrap up. We're going to take questions in just a second. Since we are in the summer season and are in the process of having just launched this Autopilot product, we're offering a special promotion for any companies that would like to try our new Autopilot product. So if you do have an interest, please give us a call or drop me an email directly. Let me know that you were part of this webinar to receive more information about that. We're doing that until here at the end of the summer months. Now, to go into the questions, the first question was, how is DigitalGenius different from a chatbot? That's a very good question. So basically, we started 4 years ago as a chatbot company, and we very quickly learned the pros and cons of that framework and the limitations of chatbots in the customer service world. And so I have a couple of slides here, actually, in the appendix that can show you the differentiation by channel. So let's look at DigitalGenius in row 1, chatbots in row 2, and self-service tools in row 3. In terms of which channels are we available on, which channels can you use it on? Well, if you have customer service queries being submitted via web form, email, chat, social, or mobile messaging apps like Facebook and WhatsApp, DigitalGenius can be there to do what it does to help you. Whereas with chatbots, it's mostly limited to just the chat channel and sometimes the messaging channel. There's another vector of differentiation, which is by functionality. So DigitalGenius has a conversational AI engine, whereas most chatbots today are using either scripted or some very basic NLP. We have APIs available for third-party system integrations. We can achieve automated answers like deflection, and as well as the chatbots and the self-service tools, but we also do that. We can do automatic case resolution, which is the end-to-end resolutions that we talked about, which is very difficult to achieve with the other propositions. And we also do an agent handoff and an agent assist functionality in real time. So even if the automation is not confident, the agent will still get suggestions from the AI so they can solve the case faster. And finally, the final vector of differentiation is by actual business value. So what business value is your company looking to achieve with an application of AI? Well, number one, you might want to decrease the number of tickets handled by agents. You might want to answer questions automatically. You might want to resolve tickets automatically, decrease your HT, improve CSAT, and improve ESAT. These are all areas where we can help. So I think we're going to have to wrap it up at this point. Thank you, everybody, for joining us this morning. This video will be available for playback later, and you'll be receiving an email with that. If you do have an interest in DigitalGenius and specifically our new Autopilot offering, please give us a call for the special summer promotion. Have a good day, everybody. Thank you. Bye-bye.